intensity. I mean, you kind of thought that he may be having some kind of seizure. Tad was this big guy, dwarfing his guitar, and have this huge guy jumping out into a crowd, and the crowd like, "Ah!"
In the middle of the show, he stage dived and crushed a few people. It was something that people are probably telling their children at this moment, and the legend will be passed on to their children and so forth.
I just remember once in Portland when Tad just fucking ran backwards and he ran into his guitar stack. The whole thing just went flying. And he went kind of flying too. And that just freaked me out, man. And just to see Tad like wailing around and his guitar's like like not strapped and he's still wailing and jump in the crowd or something.
If you listen to Tad and you didn't have a visual image for them, you would think these are, this is the Seattle version of Sonic Youth in some ways. These are sophisticated hipsters creating this very deep and sophisticated sound.
It was like, well, this is great. This is what Tad's doing. This is great. It's like he's totally, like pushing the envelope. This is, about as anti-radio rock as you're going to get, which it was cool because that's where we're all like, oh, this is, I want to be anti-radio rock. I want to do this stuff.
I had gotten a tax return from 1986. I took my whole tax return in. I'd come from being a drummer in a band. That was my main instrument. And I bought a guitar and wanted to play guitar, and I had this little Champ amp, which is right there. And I played that and came up with these ideas, and I just wanted to try it out and see how it would sound, and went into a studio called Reciprocal with Jack and Dino.
There was no click tracks. He did the drum track, and then he came in and overdubbed the guitar, overdubbed some bass, and then did the vocals, and that became his first 7-inch on the Sub Pop label.
I remember taking it to work the next day, a cassette of it.
I worked with Tad at Muzak in '87 until the spring of '88.
I was working in the cartridge cleaning room. That's my first job there. And I was working with Mark Arm.
It was a totally loud room, and we'd be cranking like, the Butthole Surfers or Scratch Acid or the first Dinosaur record, And I remember one day, like, Tad came in with these songs that he'd recorded.
Bruce Pavitt came in, and he had this crazy look on his face, like, what's this, And then he, like, walked out of the room like his mind was blown, and then he came back a little later, and he said, we started talking about, I said, man, maybe we could put something out. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to put it on a single.
Bruce was blown away, and he played it for me.
I got a bow in my hands, I got fire in my hands, I got a pain in my arm, I got a pain in my chest, I got a pain in my head, I got a pain in my chest.
I thought it was fucking amazing.
And here's the one interesting thing. Every band had established itself as a live or performing artist, in many cases, years before they recorded. Tad was a recording artist. Years before there was a band Tad, there was the guy Tad.
The response to that single was so good that he said, well, maybe I should actually get another drummer and get a bass player and get a guitarist and have a band.
Tad told me that he was recording a single with Jack and Dino at Reciprocal, and did I want to come down and check out what he was working on? And I was like, yeah. I was like really blown away with what Tad was doing all by himself. I mean, he was playing all the instruments, writing all the stuff, and it was really impressive. The band I was in, Bundle of Hiss, used to play gigs with H-Hour, which was a band that Tad used to play drums for, and that's when Tad and I met. I didn't realize it at the time, but Tad was planning on switching to guitar and quitting the drums. And H-Hour broke up over that issue and others perhaps.
Kurt and I got along really well, and we shared similar humor, and so that's kind of how it started there. And I had always been a fan of a drummer who was playing in a band called Death and Taxes at the time, and that wound up being Steve Weed.
Our keyboard had just moved to California, and we were like, wow, what do we do now? So Tad, he talked to Sub Pop, and he got a single out and stuff, so I was like, okay, that sounds cool, let's do it, so.
And Kurt knew about a guy that was playing guitar.
Gary had been in a band with Jonathan Poneman, and so I called up John, and I had seen Gary play with John before in a band. They had a band together called the Tree Climbers, and I was just blown away by his guitar playing. So we asked Gary to come in.
And I said, well, why don't we just get these two guys together and we'll start seeing how it works. And that's what became the first incarnation of Tad.
When the band got together, for example, we encouraged them to call the band Tad versus any other name, because Tad had such a pronounced personality and such a presence that we felt that the media would warm up to Tad.
How do you feel about what happened to Seattle?
What happened to it?
The hype.
Oh, I thought you meant it blew up or something.
Earthquake. Oh my God.
The hype? Well, it's just that. Nothing but hype. Seattle was a nice, friendly little college town. A maritime city, a port city right on the water. Very nice. Rains a little bit too much, but there are a few rock bands, just like in any other city, but then there was a record label, Sub Pop.
Bruce and I went into business on a full-time basis over at 1932 First Avenue, which is where our first office was, on April 1st, 1988, April Fool's Day. So we've always used that as being kind of the beginning of the company.
We felt there was a certain vibe going on in the city. All these groups were playing kind of a sludgier, grungier, punk metal sound that was super powerful.
Here comes sickness, moving up my block. When she come to my house, I hope she don't.
So as a label, we were trying to capture the essence of that scene. We weren't sure how long that sound was going to last or where it was going to go, but we wanted to document it because we thought there was a definite scene there and a sound.
They knew what they wanted. They had a concept for the label, both visually, in terms of live photographs and graphics, and sonically, with a kind of regional sound. They felt it inside developing as well, and they wanted to document it. And it was like recognizing a chemical reaction occurring.
Keep in mind, these are two guys that, went to community colleges, and one of them, his degree was basically smoking pot and spinning records, All of a sudden, their passion and where their heart lies is becoming a business.
In our own modest way, we were trying to recreate something that would stimulate people's imagination. Because there are hundreds of thousands of bands out there, and there always are millions of bands. And the way that you're going to make a distinction is by, of course, first and foremost, making music that people care about, but they also want to care about the people who are making the music. And that, you create a mythology. If you just say, hey, we're a rock band from Seattle and we practice a lot in our garage and we have, we work at Kinko's and, we hate our day jobs and we want to be rock stars. It's like, fuck that, man. You and everybody else, but you want to create this whole sense that, we're an invading horde and, we live on mountains and we eat raw flesh and we're going to come and rape your children. They played the role to a T.
We're from Seattle, Washington.